Now, 30 years ago when I started, one of the first things I noticed is that people talked to themselves and made pictures. It seemed pretty obvious to me. They did things like, you know, when you ask them a question, they'd go, let's see. You know, and you'd say to them, do you want to go to the movies? And they go, And I'd ask them, I'd go, what the hell are you doing? And they go, well, I'm just discussing it with myself. But actually in Western civilizations, people use telephone postures. It's like they call them, they go, oh, just a minute, I'll find out if I want to go to the movies. They go, hello? Self? Are you there? Just a minute, got a bad connection. Can you speak up? You're mumbling. Oh, yeah, he wants to know, what are you going to see? And that when people touch themselves at the midline and use words like I feel, I think that's pretty much a dead giveaway, don't you? I mean, to me, if somebody, and I saw people arguing on the same side of an argument. That people go, well, you know, it really looks like a good opportunity. And people go, well, I just feel we need to do something. And then they'd start yelling at each other, even though they were on the same side of the argument. And I used to laugh about it. I thought it was funny. But what was not funny was that an entire field, based on observation, had missed this. Because if it's so apparent, especially once somebody tells you about it, then you can't not see it. For heaven's sakes, they have it in Betty Boop cartoons that were made in the 1920s. They go, Betty, would you blah, 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 blah? And she goes, ding, and a big light bulb goes up over her head. You know, you would figure if cartoonists notice it, that somewhere along the line, the psychologists and the psychiatrists would have noticed it. No. They were busy looking for truth. For example, they thought you could interpret behavior. One of my favorites. I went into an encounter group years ago to find out what they did in them. And I sat back and I crossed my legs like this and I went like this, which is, okay, show me what you got. And this psychologist leaned forward meaningfully and looked at me and he said, aha, Mr. Bandler, I see that you're closed to new ideas. And I never considered myself to be closed-minded. In fact, if anything, I haven't got a good enough memory to be closed-minded. I can't really remember what I believe in that well. But I looked at him and I said, how do you know that? And he said, well, your arms and your legs are crossed. And I said, because my legs are crossed, new ideas won't go in? Is this what you're saying to me? Because I don't think that's the hole they use. And he became very offended. He said, look, if you were better educated, if you understand Sigmund Freud. And I said, sick man fraud? This is a guy that actually, I mean, Sigmund Freud did some interesting things. But I got news for you. This thing about penis envy, excuse me, I think that's really going to depend upon the penis, don't you guys? And that crap about wanting to sleep with your mother, excuse me, where I came from, that's considered sick. I mean, you know, and he's going, yes, I want to sleep with my mother. Yes, sick man. You know, it's enough to make you believe in word magic, isn't it? That anyway, I mean, there are still Freudians climbing around trying to have people... See, for example, the theory behind Freudian, quote, psychoanalysis, people come in and free associate. And the therapist sits in a chair behind them so he won't influence them. And in fact is quite successful at it, as far as I can tell. That the more they don't influence people, the less influenced they are. But it seems to me that most of us are in the business of influencing people. So what we need to do is to maximize our ability to have an impact upon their internal processes.